ASMR. That's usually a thing we listen to whenever we have trouble sleeping. Sometimes, these videos revolve around sound triggering, which some people enjoy and others don't, or roleplay audios that are wholesome, dramatic, and so on. Of course, voice actors are no exception. One example of these VA channels would be Crystal Shine ASMR. She's not like most ASMR artists, as she sometimes creates comic dubs, one of which revolves around an obscure Deltarune comic featuring Spamton interacting with the fanon version of Sans. However, she stopped uploading in late 2023, and some of her fans began to question her absence. They speculated that she might have taken a hiatus or left the internet entirely. Fortunately, those questions were about to be answered when I suddenly received a notification from Crystal Shine. I checked it and discovered she had posted a comment on her previous video.
Gonna upload part 5 since all of you were waiting for about a year. I put a lot of effort into this one. It's very dear to me. Hope you're ready.
Even though I had never watched ASMR before, the comment piqued my curiosity. I later checked her channel and saw that a video had been uploaded just a few minutes after the comment. I couldn't recall much from the description, but I remember both the thumbnail and the title. The thumbnail featured a completely black screen, nothing out of the ordinary for an average ASMR video. The title, on the other hand, was vague, and it was something along the lines of extremely personal. From what I could gather, this was intended to be a fan continuation of an existing ASMR video created by another YouTuber, Ushio VA. I found it puzzling, as I thought it was meant to be a harmless ASMR video, but ultimately, I didn't care. I clicked on the video, which started with a shot of a Japanese school. Sounds of footsteps echoed for about 5 seconds before an image of Jen appeared on the screen. She then asked the listener if they were busy, to which the listener nodded yes. Jen mentioned that there was something on her mind and wanted to know if the listener could meet her in the cafeteria at midnight to discuss it. The listener agreed, and Jen walked away. The scene then transitions to a time card reading midnight, before a shot of the cafeteria fades in, and in the background, Jen is seen sitting at one of the tables. The listener then joined her at the table she was at. Jen asked if they knew Emiko since the first time they met her, and inquired if the listener planned to be with her. The listener nodded yes. Jen's eyes widened in shock, tears welled up, and she remained silent, refusing to speak. The listener attempted to comfort her, but she slapped their hand away, yelling at them to not touch her, before walking off. I found myself questioning when Jen's personality had changed. She had always been a tomboy bully who cared for the listener, and now her demeanor was completely different. My mind raced as I pressed on. Suddenly, the silence was broken by muffled cries. The listener began to investigate the source of the noise and soon noticed a door. Upon opening it, they discovered Emiko, who was chained up. At that moment, I realized that the animation style had changed. It was no longer the typical anime art style. Instead, it resembled the cartoons from the 90s that many of us watched on TV back in the day. But then again, I understood why Crystal Shine had hired an animator to manage the rest of the video. The listener hurried toward Emiko and quickly tore the duct tape from her mouth, causing her to gasp for air as she locked eyes with the listener. The listener is taken aback and filled with confusion upon seeing Emiko and asks why she's chained up. She urgently explains her situation, revealing that Jen has lost her mind and has even gone so far as to chain her up in the empty room she was in. Desperately, Emiko pleads with the listener to escape the school before it's too late. Her sentiment was then interrupted by the sound of a door creaking open. Jen enters the room, holding a blood-stained baseball bat, indicating that she had bashed a student's brain off at the school. Emiko is scared and tries to reason with Jen, but it would later lead to an argument about who would be the lover, Jen or Emiko. Frustrated, Jen insists that she never gets close to them. In a sudden outburst, she grabs the bat and starts hitting Emiko repeatedly in the head while covering her mouth with duct tape. She would then pass out after a few seconds, blood drooling from her mouth. Silence surrounded the listener, who looked visibly scared. Jen felt a twinge of anxiety as her right eye began to twitch, and she would then look at the listener.
What's wrong, new kid? Are you just too timid to crave someone as breathtakingly perfect as I am? No need to fret. I've got plenty of devious tricks up my sleeve to draw you in. Just wait. Soon you'll be consumed by thoughts of me, yearning for nothing but my presence. Picture it. A fairy tale just for us, crafting our paradise, overflowing with obsession and devotion, forever chained together in a blissful eternity where no one can tear us apart.
The listener rushes out of the room, with Jen's laughter echoing in the distance. This continues for about 20 seconds, until Jen suddenly breaks one of the listener's arms, causing them to collapse to the ground. The scene hard cuts to a black screen and later fades into a shot of a basement after 5 seconds. I assumed this was from Jen's apartment, but I could be mistaken. I quickly noticed several details in the room, including bloodstains and various tools covered in blood. I found it puzzling that Crystal Shine would include such elements. However, I ultimately realized that I didn't care much about it. A sound of a door creaking open is heard, indicating that Jen has returned from what I assume was work. She then notices the listener, who I think is tied up in chains off screen. Jen runs up to the listener and hugs them.
I'm so glad you're awake, new kid,
she says happily before letting go. The sound of rattling chains echoed through the room, accompanied by muffled screams and protests from the listener. A sharp smacking noise rang out.
Stop it! Stop struggling, damn you!
Jen yelled angrily. The listener trembled in fear, unsure of how to react. Jen warned him that if he didn't stop struggling, she would use her chainsaw to cut off his limbs. The listener then grows concerned for Jen as he continues to struggle. Jen was about to yell at him again, but realized that she needed to keep her cool and took a very audible deep breath.
Look, I've been your friend since the day you arrived here. I've listened to your rants, your worries, everything.
A couple of footsteps are heard, alongside audible, deep, shaking breathing from Jen.
Why don't you just ignore everyone else? It's not like you need them anyway.
a spinning sound is heard, before, surprisingly enough, a male voice is heard, presumably from the listener. The voice actor for this role was simply listed as anonymous.
Not like I'd ever consider dating a whore like you. Besides, I'm pretty sure even my ex-wife is hotter than you.
The listener would continue struggling, with chain-rattling noises audible. But suddenly, those rattling noises came to a halt, and the chains broke loose, with a loud, booming snap, followed by the sound of metal hitting the floor. Jen is shocked, visibly so, as sweat beads begin forming on her face. Suddenly, it cuts to what I assume was a point-of-view shot of the listener as he slowly trudged towards Jen. Her breath became shaky again, but this time, her insanity seemed to be replaced with pure fear.
Get away from me!
Jen breathed out, her voice only slightly above a whisper. The listener reached out his hand towards Jen, ready to grip onto her at a moment's notice.
Stay away! Get the fuck away from me!
Suddenly, the screen cut to black, as a loud, piercing silence filled the space for approximately 5 seconds. The scene then shifts to reveal the listener's full body, dressed in a janitor's outfit, who also has a name tag. I think Franklin Garcia was supposed to be his name, but I might be wrong. He walks along the sidewalk, a disturbingly neutral expression put on his face, before suddenly hearing the wailing of a siren, signaling that the police are after him. In a sudden panic, he takes off running as several police cars speed up to chase him. When the cars finally reach him, one officer crawls out of the car and puts Franklin in handcuffs. He tries to reason with the officer, but tells him to shut it and to tell it to the judge. It later fades into a shot of Franklin staring at a judge in the courtroom. I couldn't understand what the judge was saying due to how glitchy his voice sounded, but from what I could gather, he was detailing every crime Franklin had committed, such as harassing and assaulting students. Franklin desperately begs to be let free, which causes the judge to slam the mallet, interrupting his sentence, as the scene suddenly cuts to a shot of him in what seems to be an electric chair. The scene then shifts to a zoomed-out shot, revealing a reflection in which 2 men look at Franklin. One of the men then approaches a lever and pulls it, signaling that the electricity in the chair has been activated. The scene abruptly cuts off after this occurs, as a few seconds of a black screen accompanied by faint electric buzzing sounds are shown, ending the video. My jaw was on the floor when the video ended. Whatever the hell I was expecting out of that video, it certainly wasn't what it ended up being. Multiple people in the comments section of that video seemed to have the same reaction, as variations of "holy shit" and "what the fuck did I just watch" littered the comments section of this video. Crystal Shine hasn't posted anything since that video, not even on the other social media platforms linked to her channel. One comment that stood out to me on the video was someone claiming to have attended high school with Crystal Shine. I don't fully remember what it said, but it had something to do with them being concerned for Crystal Shine's well-being. How she was in the mental hospital for a couple of months during her junior year, and that they repeatedly referred to her as Ash. I may not know the full extent of Ash, aka Crystal Shine's personal life story, but considering the contents of her latest upload, I can only hope she's able to find peace from whatever event that video was based on.